Welcome into ATL Day Ones with Jarvis and Tenitra. Coming up on today's show, I have my thoughts as to how Zach Harrison will be used this year.
And the Braves have done something that they have not done since 2017. Is that good or not so much?
And last but not least, and for the culture, Todd Bowles let everyone know that it's never too late. That's all coming up next, right here on ATL Day Ones. Let's go.
This is ATL Day Ones, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
I want to start by saying thank you for making ATL Day Ones your first listening of the day. And remember, we are free and available wherever you download your podcast. And wherever you download your podcast, make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. Really appreciate that from you in advance. Today's episode of ATL Day Ones is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started. It is ATL Day Ones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. But T, when you think about over the weekend, we got a chance to get out to rookie mini camps. Falcons getting the thing started. You know, they out there practicing. They ain't got no pads on, but they out there practicing, getting it in. The rookies getting acclimated to the systems and everything that what's going on down there. But I think one of the things that I feel like, you know, when we got a chance to talk to Zach Harrison, I know you got a chance to talk to him one-on-one, but my thing with Zach T is the fact that I feel like the Falcons have a plan for him, and I don't think it necessarily involves him being like an integral part of the rotation or being a starter on this defense. Because when you even think about how when Zach was talking about when he first got drafted, one of the guys that reached out to him was Calais Campbell, and when that tells me that Calais Campbell is going to be a guy to kind of be able to help him bring him along. And I feel like Zach in year one, he's going to be more so of a project/rotational guy when it comes to this rushing off the edge and being a every down player.
And I think it depends. I think it depends on what we see out of the likes of Arnold Batiste. And I mean, you could really look at, I say the last two classes, right? Because when you kind of look at the depth chart, okay, you got, Arnold Batiste, obviously, ahead of Zach Harrison on the depth chart. But I kind of think there's going to be a little competition, a little bit more competition, if you will. Now, I agree with you. I think he'll start off as a rotational player. I don't know that I believe he'll end up that way. He is a little bit of a project, but heck, so are the players, the D-line, and really almost the whole front seven from the last 2 years. All the players who were drafted to be in that space, right? So that's why I'm not quite sure what's going to happen, because you and I had high hopes, and that doesn't mean AK won't come through this year, just as an example, right? And we liked what we saw in Ade. That doesn't mean he won't evolve and take a leap in his third year. But I just am a little bit concerned about like where those guys are going to fall in the general scheme of things. And then, of course, you've got your, how do you say, I don't want to say residual, perennial 1 year deal situations. So I think those things are kind of going to be the factors that dictate how much Zach Robinson gets playing time, how many snaps, and how he's used. But I agree with you as far as he also can go as far as Calais Campbell might take him, no different than Grady Jarrett went as far as Ray Lewis was able to take him. So I think when you have someone like Calais Campbell, whom you can FaceTime with, like I asked him, which veterans have you spoken with? Have you spoken to Calais? Have you spoken to Grady? And I mean, he just lit up talking about Calais, and he said how they talk all the time. And Calais was an open book saying, hey man, I've got just a wealth of knowledge. If you want it, you can come get it. And he said, I'm in there just soaking everything up. I can't wait until he gets here. And then I get a whole year with him, and I'm going to learn everything from him technique wise, but then I'm going to make it my own. I said, now that right there might be another Grady Jarrett situation in the making.
And I think there are two things that kind of stood out to me when you talked about it. And I really think these are positives going forward, like from the whole rotational piece. I think that this defense is going to have to evolve. You know what I mean? Because when you think about Ryan Nielsen, they say they're going to be multiple and all that stuff, but you don't draft a 6'5", 275-pound guy and say,
with
hey,
a 700-inch
wingspan. Right, exactly. And sit up here and say, yeah, man, go ahead and be a stand-up outside linebacker. No, that's Dean Peasy's scheme. I think that, the more that, he gets acclimated to the game, I feel like he's going to play himself into, you're seeing that four-man front, that even front, more so than you seeing the odd-man front. And I know the Falcons are going to continue to say they're going to run multiple. They're saying that because, you have to say that type of stuff because, well known, Arthur Smith is real big on not talking about schemes. So I think that, that's a pathway that I see, Zach playing his way into that rotation more so than just being a project. And also when you think about Calais Campbell, coming into the fray, there is look at those guys. Now Calais Campbell is a little different. Now he's 6'8", 300 pounds. That's a little different. But when you're talking about length, height, size, weight, fit for certain schemes, like Zach Harrison kind of fits that mold. So when you have that type of guy that you can lean on, I really feel wholeheartedly that Zach is going to be in a good space, regardless of how many snaps he's getting in year one. Now, T, speaking of year one impact, how about this? Outside of Bijan Robinson, we already set the expectation on this show. I said it on Sports Extra last night. 1,200 yards, 8 touchdowns. That's where I'm at with Bijan right now. But outside of Bijan, who do you think will have the biggest impact in year one?
Well, my guy was still Zach Harrison. He's the guy I chose on Sports Extra last night. But since we've already talked about Zach, I'll give you my next guy who I think will need to have the biggest impact. And let me tell you why I ended up kind of switching it out. Because initially my thought was Clark Phillips III because I thought he might be sneaky good, like he might be the steal of the draft.
Right.
But in all honesty, it's got to be Matthew Bergeron. It
Absolutely.
has to be Matthew Bergeron because that left side has been operating like left shark probably since the Super Bowl when we saw left shark with Katy Perry performing. But anywho, it's really been shaky and it's been in, out, back and forth, just plug and play, and even with the solid performance that you got from Elijah Wilkinson last year, he's gone. So, and we know when you start trying to plug and play the likes of Jalen Mayfield, that just doesn't work. You got a guy, Matthew Bergeron. You got a guy, and you got a guy that looks the part when you talk to other O linemen who feel like, is he the guy? Because of course, Mike Johnson, O lineman with Alabama and with the Falcons, who can take a look at and see things we don't see. He's got some possibility to move over at tackle at some point, but can be very, very productive at guard. The reason I mentioned that, Jarvis, is because if we want to see Bijan Robinson get 1,200 yards and we want to see him get 8 touchdowns and we want to see Tyler Algier complement that, if we want to see them get to the second level, if we want to see the pass protection that Desmond Ridder needs so that he can get to his weapons, you're going to need that O-line to be even better than they were last year. So that to me kind of starts and stops with Matthew.
Yeah, I talked about coming into the draft that I wanted them to draft somebody in the first round when it comes to putting that left guard spot because, like I said, I got tired of the spin the wheel on some sorry left guard. Like I hate to put it like that, but that's what it was. Because and of course Elijah Wilkinson came in and gave you something, but he couldn't stay healthy. So that's just as bad in my book. You know what I mean? You can't make the club in the tub. Yeah. The best ability is availability.
Is your availability, which you didn't really have.
Which you have. So all those things kind of fit where I was when it coming into the draft. So I think Bergeron. I agree wholeheartedly that he is a guy that he got a little pressure on him coming into this thing because he was basically drafted to be the missing piece to solidify what they have up front. Now, here's a little news, T. How about this? Matt Ryan gonna be talking a little ball next year, but not in the huddle. He's actually gonna be talking on CBS Sports. T. Say he might be doing a couple of games, doing some studio work. How about that? Matt Ryan got a nice another little gig going on for himself.
Oh, I really, really like this for him. And I like this for us too, as far as the
Yeah.
viewer, because Matt
Absolutely.
Ryan is a cerebral guy. He was one whom we covered for several years and was one of the delights, whether it was a
Mm-hmm.
winning game or a losing game. Matt Ryan was going to tell you the truth. He was going to
Yeah.
tell you if it was his fault. He was going to give you the analysis that you needed to see why he may have made the decisions he made or didn't make. Same thing at practice, really, really gave you a lot of insight into kind of the mind of a quarterback. And my first thought was, as much as people don't like Tony Romo's approach, he does maybe give you a lot of information. However,
Right, yeah.
I feel like Matt Ryan is going to give it to you in a way that you can appreciate, meaning he's succinct. He's not going to go on and on. He's not going to cut off his other person. He's not going to get overly excited, or he's not going to tell you 7 plays at one time when only 1 play is going on the field. So
Right.
yeah, I like this for Matt Ryan. And I like that he was like, oh, and another thing, I didn't say retirement. So I said Matt Ryan
that
is
was
like,
interesting.
if in week 8, 9, or 10, a QB1 goes down
Yeah.
and they need a QB1 somewhere, anywhere, I'm still available.
Yeah, I think it's good for him. I'm going to be interested to see how far he's willing to go with being honest. You know what I mean? Because that's a lot of times guys who leave the game and immediately go into the booth or go into the studio and start doing this type of work. A lot of times those guys don't want to kill, quote unquote, kill their guys or the guys that they play with, guys they have relationships with. So I'm be interested to see how he toed that line, and knowing Matt and covering him for pretty much most of his career when he was down here in Atlanta. He's going to toe that line really well. All right, T, before we get out of here, before we move on to the next segment, because, coming up in a couple minutes, guys, we're going to be talking about the Atlanta Braves. I'm concerned, and you should be too. But first, how about this? The Lakers, the Denver Nuggets, the Miami Heat, the Boston Celtics, T, the finals are set. What are your thoughts, and who do you think is going to be in the finals? And then ultimately, who's going to take it all?
Exactly.
I'm going a step further.
I think these are both 7-game series, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
And I wouldn't be shocked of any scenario, but I do think the one that's most probable is the Celtics on the Eastern Conference side, because granted, it was a 7-game series last year at Oba for one Jimmy Butler bucket that didn't go down, right? But yeah, I definitely still think there's something different about Jason Tatum. And we talked about the fact that Jaylen Brown has been the most consistent player throughout these playoffs. He has never wavered for the Celtics. And finally, oh, how we miss Al Horford in Atlanta, because that dude just shows up whenever he needs to. He did just enough to give Joel Embiid fits when he was playing defense on him, so that it wore Joel Embiid out when Joel Embiid was trying to play defense on Jason Tatum, whatever. So then you go over to the other. And of course, that was the split of the series, Celtics Heat during the regular season. Same thing with the Nuggets and Lakers, except theirs was weird because when the Nuggets won, they blew them out. When the Lakers won, they blew them out. I think, Jarvis, you've got Jamal Murray, you've got Michael Porter Jr., but you also have Lonnie Walker and you have Austin Reeves, these X factors, so to speak.
Yeah.
Extra X factors.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's down to Nikola Jokic. If he's able to impose his will, and Anthony Davis is not able to defend because, like you said, the best ability is availability, then I think it's Nuggets in 7.
Wow. I like the Lakers in that series because I just really feel like there's some magic brewing when it comes to LeBron. He's not going to be able to do it every game. I think he's going to be able to do it, and I think if Anthony Davis can just do it when LeBron isn't able to do it, I think they'll be able to pull it off. And I actually like Lonnie Walker coming along, and Austin Reeves. He's been a solid guy throughout this entire playoff. So yeah, so I think those guys are onto something. So yeah, I think, and I'm just gonna say Celtics. Like, there's no reason for me to even break it down. Like, Celtics gonna win that series. So I like Lakers Celtics in the NBA Finals. Now T, like we talked about, mentioning as far as the Atlanta Braves, I'm concerned. I'm trying to figure this bad boy out. We'll talk about it. I'll lay on the couch next when we talk about the Braves and see what's going on, see if we can figure this thing out. But first, this episode is brought to you by a FanDuel Sportsbook, because it is the #1 sportsbook in America. And guess what? The NBA playoffs are going on right now. We just started talking about it. So guess what? You're trying to win some money. You're trying to get your little money back that you lost because you was betting on the Hawks to go to the NBA Finals. Yeah, yeah. I hope nobody didn't do that. Y'all didn't do that. No way y'all didn't do it. Anyway, but go to FanDuelSportsbook.com. They have everything right there for you, from the money lines, the over-unders, All of those things right there, the 3 points drain, you can do all of that right there at FanDuel. And guess what? If you are a new customer, they have the no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. So guess what? So if you lose your money, they got you covered. So why not go to FanDuel.com/lockedon today? Because one, it is the number one sports book. I know that's familiar to you. The number one sports book, and they got the no sweat first bet up to $1,000 if your first bet doesn't win. So go to FanDuel.com/lockedon because it is the official sportsbook betting partner of the NBA.
Well, I bet that you didn't think that the Braves were going to lose 4 games in a row, something they haven't done since 2017. Bet you didn't think that they were going to go 2 for 22 with runners in scoring position, which means the other thing that you probably didn't bet on was the fact that they would actually get swept for the first time this season. And also that means his first series loss this season. Of course, the Braves wrapped up a weekend series in Toronto with a 6-5 walk-off win by Toronto. Danny Jansen gave it to Raisel Iglesias, paid the price, and here we are. It would be different, Jarvis, if we were just talking about this as an outlier with one game, right? Or it would be different if we saw, oh, here's a challenge. Oh, there's a challenge. But the honesty of it is this. We saw multiple challenges. We saw defensive plays that were uncharacteristic miscues. We saw a bullpen that did their job, and then the closer that everyone waited to come back, just not the answer. And then, like I said, we saw the bats go quiet yet again at the plate. So with all of that said, especially with them heading into Arlington to play a good Rangers team, should we be concerned?
Yes, absolutely. Because here's the thing. Max Fried and Kyle Wright are no longer here. They're not going to be here until after the All-Star break, hopefully. And when you think about how this team is currently constructed, this team is constructed to score runs. Like you mentioned last night on Sports Extra, you talked about how they were averaging 5 runs coming into this series. So, hey, you expect them to do that and have that run support and give that run support that they need, especially when you're talking about running 2 bullpen games out of that in 4 games. So all of those factors come into play when you're going to what you need, and what you need is to actually produce. And those guys just weren't doing that. And the thing that that was the Braves calling card, is the fact that they used to score early, and they score early and often. Well, they were scoring early, but once it got late in the games, they were just disappearing, and it just wasn't there for them, because you have guys like a Ronald Acuna and guys like Ozzie Albies in certain spots, they were doing their thing, but it just didn't seem like everybody else was coming along with them in those particular spots. So, yeah, I'm concerned right now because the way this team is built, they aren't doing it. And because, they had the deep rotation, right? They had a number of guys, and they've lost those guys. So another sector of this team needs to step it up, and they just didn't do that.
Yeah, I would agree. The besties did quite fine, Ronald and Ozzie, but the rest of the team literally left us shaking our heads and scratching our heads and saying, what the heck happened? But I agree with you as far as that rotation is concerned. Slowly but surely, it's going to be a challenge because you really kind of don't know. You hope that Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd give you something. It can be something as small as 5 innings. Like, can you just give 5 quality innings? And then we start to go into the bullpen, or best case scenario, even 6 innings of quality ball. Don't give up too many runs, because you know what happens, like you said, late in these games as of late. So you got to get something out of those guys, hopefully, because you want to stave off a Mike Soroka return for as long as you can. I mean, it has been almost 3 years since we've seen him. The Braves have been extremely patient during that time frame, so there's no need to rush him. I believe his last outing in Gwinnett was 4 innings. So you really want to see if you can kind of get him to 5 innings and for them to be 5 quality innings. But yeah, the question becomes, do you have enough in the tank, meaning the pitching staff overall, to be able to hold you down until maybe Soroka can come back and give you something?
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have to be, right? Because regardless of what situation they're in, because here's the thing. If you are in a situation where you don't want to use the young guns, and Jared Schuster and Dylan Dodd just recently struggled as well and down in AAA, so that situation isn't looking good. But if you're in a situation where you don't want to use those guys and you want to break in case of emergency with Mike Soroka, you need to start picking up the phone, Alex. I'm sorry. Like, there's no way that I'm going to push or rush Mike Soroka back out there. I just don't think that doesn't make sense at this point, because like you said, it's been 3 years since we've seen him. So like, you want to lose him for another year or another year and a half or however long, because you just can't rush this process. When they're talking about guys going through that build-up process, when you're talking about with starting pitchers, and you have guys like Max Fried who's no longer throwing right now, and he's going to have to build back up to be able to get ready. How about this? We're talking about Max Fried, who's been pitching this year.
Yeah.
Mike Soroka hasn't been in a major league game, pitching a major league game in 3 years. So imagine the type of buildup that he needs in order to be ready. So I am not for rushing Mike Soroka back. So it's basically like, hey, put the young boys out there, put the young pups out there and see what they can do, because you can't continue to throw bullpen games. And I think that you can't go to Michael Soroka too early. So they're in a space where, hey, these young guys, they're going to have to pitch right now. And that's what it is.
And hopefully Charlie Morton gives them what Uncle Charlie has been giving them for the past few starts. He's been really good. So he's going to go up against the lefty, Cody Bradford. It's his MLB debut. And what I like about that is what I just said. He's a lefty. Ozzy's about to go off. I just feel it. Yes. I feel like Ozzy's about to do it.
Come on, Ozzy. Come on, look.
His OPS is something like 1.72, something crazy when it comes to
like over 1,200. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it'll be good to see him. But going back to what you said about Alex Anthopoulos picking up phones, I believe that's probably going to be the way too, especially as you get closer to maybe the trade deadline and you have a little bit more, you feel like you have a little bit more leverage. I still think Marcell Ozuna might be your best leverage.
That's your guy right there. Like, get him up out of here.
Yeah, I'm still like, he gone. Because
him go.
5 home runs in 8 games is a really good look. And yes, I know that the Braves still need bats. I get that. And he's been good in that DH role. But the fact that he's gone 5 home runs in 8 games might also make him appealing to another team. And if you can package a deal with him to get yourself another quality starter, Alex Anthopoulos has to at least think about that.
Yeah, he's gonna have to. I think you're in a situation, because if we're having the conversation about, hey, what about Michael Soroka? Let's see where he's going on. Yeah, I'm sure Alex Anthopoulos having the foresight that he's had to build this team and make the necessary moves when they need to be made. I'm sure he's already thinking about who he can call, who has a need. You know, I was even seeing I came across a story about, you know, their starting pitcher with the Chicago White Sox. Sure, it don't even matter what his name is. Yeah, like, bring him in, because that's kind of where I am with this thing. Because like I don't like seeing the Braves throwing multiple bullpen games within 5 days. Like, that just doesn't work for me, and because I know that they don't believe in doing that necessarily on a consistent basis. So yeah, I think that Alex Anthopoulos is gonna continue to do what he needs to do, and hopefully once that happens, the Braves can figure while that's happening, they can get these bats going, because that's where they're going to live. That's where they're going to continue to hold on to this NL East lead that they have. Yeah.
I think if the bats not warm up, they need to get white hot. And if the defense comes through to be the defensive team that we've all grown accustomed to with the Braves, I think they'll be fine, especially because, like you said, can't count on the bullpen, because I don't know, Raisel Iglesias, that's questionable, but also AJ Minter's in his own mind. And until he gets out of his own head, that bullpen is not going to be complete if those 2 key pieces aren't operating at a high level. But hey, listen, everydayers, you probably have something to say about that as well. I mean, what do you think about Matt Ryan, the broadcaster, or with all of the things that you've heard coming out of Flowery Branch, what we've shared with you this weekend as well? What do you guys think about who might be the most key player outside of Bijan Robinson for the Falcons to go far this coming season? So don't forget, give us comments in YouTube. If you go and check out the YouTube channel and you check us out, if that's where you like to go, we love it. Make sure you let us know about that and let everybody else know to check us out there as well. But if you prefer to just listen in on ATL Day Ones, make sure that you download that wherever you get your podcast, and you see our Twitter handles. You can DM us there as well. And hey, you never know, we might bring you into the show, because we can't do it without our everydayers.
And we appreciate all those everydayers Milan, Jamie, my guy Robert Blackman, all those guys have been everydayers. They've been checking us out each and every day. So hey, join the party, become a part of the cool kids, part of the cool club. You know, if you was a guy that used to stand on the wall at the dance parties, go and get with the party. Join the party, because we are rocking right here on ATL Day One. We appreciate that from you guys in advance. But T, this is For the Culture. It is the intersection between sports, entertainment, the culture, and sometimes whatever the hell we want to talk about, because that's just how we get down in the show. Today is no different. T, when you think about like Mother's Day's gifts, you know, like we talked about those on Friday about, you know, what giving ideas and I was kind of, you know, acting like I was some type of marriage expert, saying, you know, hey man, this is what you need to do, fellas, if y'all struggling out there. Learn your wife. You know what I'm saying? Like one of those old school sayings, like you better I'm gonna learn you something one of these days. But I think that when you look at what Todd Bowles did and the gift that he gave to his mother, and of course, she passed away in 2009. She died with cancer, and before she passed away, he said that she wanted him to continue and finish up with his degree. Now, Todd Bowles was a guy that played in the NFL for 8 years and went on, got his coaching career started at Morehouse in 1997, and now he's the head coach, you know, for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He was defense coordinator when they won a Super Bowl previously as well. So. But I think it says something when a man at the age of 59 will go out and go say, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and finish my degree. And that's exactly what he did, T.
Yeah, I really like that story. And congratulations to Todd Bowles for obtaining his degree and just having and embracing the concept of it's never too late. It's never too late if you set a goal for yourself. You never know if it's going to come to fruition. So why not give it a shot? And what a great way to honor his mom. Like that is so powerful, because we talked about material gifts, right? On Friday, and how mothers can be honored, but whoa, that is amazing. And you do hear guys all the time. I think about Jalen Hurts, right? Who got his master's degree this past weekend from the University of Oklahoma. And I'm sure his mother is over the moon about that, right? So when you can do something that fulfills a dream of your own, but also fulfills the dream of your parent or makes them proud, it's always a good look.
Yeah, and when you think about it, like you don't have to do it, right? Because, you know, Jalen Hurts is at the peak of his profession. Like, you know, he's in the NFL and just got a super big contract. So I think it speaks to the integrity of these folks, right? Jalen and Coach Bowles. And to be able to just say, you know what, I know that I'm in a good space professionally, but I'm going to continue my education or finish up my degree and to be able to be an example for other folks. Because Todd talked about how, you know, hey, his sons, he wanted to be an example for his sons. Because, like, you know, if I can influence them and let them know that, hey, it's never too late. And, hey, you need to be able to go in and finish up everything, because I did it. You know, I was able to do it as well. And not saying it from a malicious standpoint, but just from hey, like, this is something that he said, whenever you stop learning, that's when you become old. So, I absolutely love that. So, yeah, because I've come, you know, in my life, T, as I've gotten older, I'm just like, you know what? Like, learning should never stop. It should never stop. And no matter what profession that you work in, because there's so many things that you can learn in life by continuing your own education, not necessarily having to go back to school, but you can learn yourself some stuff as well. I'm up here talking like I'm 80 years old, but anyway, but it's always a good thing to see those things come to fruition when those guys are going out there and doing their thing like that. It's a wonderful thing to see.
Yeah, indeed.
Yes. And guess what, guys? That's it. That's all we have for today. And how about this? You know, we always will appreciate you guys for making sure that you make ATL Day Ones your first listen of the day. And for all the people who have come to us Monday through Friday, those are our everydayers. So we appreciate you even more. So guess what? If you aren't an everydayer, why don't you go ahead and join the crew, join the party, because we're having fun over here Monday through Friday. So make sure you come over and download that episode wherever you download your podcast. And guys, I do this each and every day. I ask that if you don't do anything else for the rest of your life, yeah, I'm being dramatic, but I'm being real. Make sure that you share love, show love, and most importantly, spread love.